Ivica Zubac is on the Pacers. Bennedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson are not, and many picks going to the Clippers. Wow, oh, wow. Did the Pacers roll the dice on their center now? We'll get a quick reaction bonus, shorter edition of Locked On Pacers, breaking it all down right now.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. It's trade deadline day, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Pacers, where the Pacers have made a big move. Ivica Zubac is coming from the Clippers to the Pacers, and we have a lot to discuss. I'm Tony East. I cover the Pacers for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and what a doozy of a trade, getting slight little leaks along the way through reporting up to the trade season. Jake Fisher talking about it last night along the way, connection via Michael Scotto, that the Clippers and Pacers might have a connection here. I predicted on the pre-deadline show, if you listened, that the Pacers' exact requirements for a trade like this would be Ben Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and 2 first-round picks, and I was very close to being right. The Pacers add in a second-rounder to get it done, and Kobe Brown is also coming in a part of this. So many layers to peel back. We'll do a quick high-level reaction overview right now, and then I'll go into more detail later tonight and publish it tomorrow morning. But let's do the full package first. And what I think this signals before we talk about the specifics of the players. Ivica Zubac and his spectacular contract, given his production, is coming to the Pacers. 3 years, $58.6 million. He's extension eligible in early September. Is coming to the Pacers. Kobe Brown, a young player who has not panned out, but the last pick of the first round in 2023. He is coming to the Pacers, and the Pacers are sending to the Clippers Bennedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, their first-round pick unprotected in 2029, a 2028 second-round pick, and get a notebook down, write this down because I'm not going to repeat it, but it's very complicated. Their first-round pick this year, 2026, but it's protected 1 through 4 and 10 through 30. I want to go into a ton of detail on that tonight, but I don't want to get into that super much right now. A lot of game theory involved in that. The Clippers get it if it's 5 through 9. The Pacers get it otherwise, and if the Pacers get it this year, then a 2031 unprotected first-round pick will go to the LA Clippers. Wow, level stuff. So first of all, what does this mean? This is a 100% commitment from the Pacers to their current competitive timeline. They could have waited till the summer. Is Ivica Zubac going to be available in the summer? Or is another team going to trade for him now? I'll tell you guys that I heard of another team that did have interest in him leading up to the trade deadline like today, yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, right? If that is the case, that he could be gone to a different team today. He could be gone to that team in the offseason when contracts change and things of that nature. If you know right now as the Pacers that a value you like, and the value I predicted, by the way, was Mathurin, Jackson, and 2 firsts, so I was very close. If you know that player is available right now and you can get them, all you have to do is say yes. Then you should do it if you believe that player is going to keep you in contention or make you a contender for the rest of this current era of whatever that is. And it's very easy to point to what that era's timeline is. Ivica Zubac is under contract for the rest of this season. The value of that deal this year, not that important, but the fact that it's only $18.8 million or $18.9 million made this possible with just Jackson and Mathurin's contracts. Then next year, he's at $20.3 million, then $21.8 that following year. So fits well into their salary cap structure, which is, of course, important for this exercise. If you subtract out that Isaiah Jackson's contract is the exact same length, they're basically paying less $13 million a year per him by getting rid of Jackson's contract in this move. But also the length is important. All of these players' contracts end after 2028. Ivica Zubac, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Obi Toppin, and Aaron Nesmith. And potentially TJ McConnell as a team option following that season, right? It seems very clear what sort of timeline the Pacers have with this current core. And they could extend it beyond that. All those players, or most of them, are extension eligible pretty soon, basically outside of Nesmith. Haliburton runs through 2028, 29. But very clearly the Pacers, who made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago and the Finals last year, view what they have right now as a window to win something of significance, whether that's a championship, whether that's mini playoff series, whatever. And I keep citing this stat in conversations with people, but very rarely actually say it on this podcast. And I think this is something that you have to believe in if you're the Pacers. They have never, with Tyrese Haliburton on the roster, they have never lost a series if he finishes the series healthy. He got hurt against the Celtics and they got swept. Who knows? They might have lost that series anyway. The Celtics were awesome. They lost a game that he played that series, obviously. They lost games he played against the Thunder, but he got hurt in Game 7 of that series. Every other series, if he finished it healthy and he played in every game of the series, they won. They won the series, right? Tyrese Haliburton is potentially that level of talent. Now, obviously, he tore his Achilles. The team is going to potentially look different as a result of that next year. His true level is now the biggest question mark of this era. But if they believe in him, and Pascal Siakam is still, as named by the league, a star-level player, and you have Nembhard and Nesmith and Toppin and McConnell on that team and in that core, they know that they can win something. Isaiah Jackson missed one of those playoff runs. Bennedict Mathurin missed the other. They were obviously both crucial in the opposite one, but they know that this group that they have is competitive enough to win something good. But they were missing a center. Jay Huff had been fine in some games, but not all of them. Micah Potter has been fine in some games, but not all of them. Isaiah Jackson is now gone. He was fine in some games, and not all of them. They are all fine NBA players. They are also all clearly reserves to me. And I think the Pacers knew that, and this season had proved that. They needed somebody better at the position. They also needed somebody who fits into their salary structure so they can continue to build out their team. And I'll get into more of the salaried cap dynamics of this tonight. I'll get into more of the pick protection dynamics of this tonight. But Zubac is very good and makes very little for his production. People laugh at his speed and his lack of shooting. Those are real things about him. He's not the fastest player. He doesn't even take threes. He hasn't taken one since 2022-23. He also averages double-digit rebounds a night and has for the last 2 seasons and averaged 17 points a game last year, 14.4 this year. Oh, by the way, last year, he finished 6th in Defensive Player of the Year voting and was on second team all defense. He is that level of defender. Last year, when the Clippers were good, with the Zubac on the floor, their net rating was plus 9.4. With him off the floor, it was minus 4.3. That's a 13-point swing for Zubac. That's bigger than Siakam's this year, right now. He had that level of impact on a good Clippers team last year. Granted, the Clippers have not been as good this year, and he has not been able to lift that group as much, but he has history, including his peak, obviously, last year, of being an incredibly good player, and that's a big part of this. And for the Pacers specifically, in their current arrangement of pursuing certain kinds of centers on an incredibly affordable and manageable contract. That's awesome. That's exactly what they should want. That's why his name and Okongwu's kept coming up as like possibly the best targets for the Pacers in the cycle. They're really good, they're affordable, and potentially obtainable with assets the Pacers were willing to move on from. Now, that is obviously the other part of this that we'll get to in a second. They gave up real stuff. 2 rotation players, 3 picks. That's not nothing. But they get a player who is close to a dream fit or a dreamy fit, both financially and on the floor. Perfect timing in that the Pacers were ending practice as we showed up today to the facilities, and Rick Carlisle got to talk about the trade to us, saying about Zubac, his level of physicality around the rim is really one of the most prominent physical centers in the league. His physicality and skill and rebounding and offensive rebounding. Those are the things he believes that Zubac will bring to the Pacers. He said, we obviously feel the fit is good with Tyrese and Pascal, and our other veteran guys know that too. And then he later called him a top 10 center in the league, right? That is obviously high praise from Carlisle. So Zubac, very good. One of the guys has been brought up many times. We talked about this. The price will be the point of contention for a lot of people, which I will get to in the second segment. The other thing the Pacers acquire in this, people have been asking me about him. I have very little opinion of Kobe Brown. He does not play all that much for the Clippers. He's never started a game. He's appeared in 118 games total, never averaged 10 minutes a game. This year for a at one time bad Clippers team, he's still playing under 10 minutes a game. They declined his 4th-year option. That doesn't mean it's over for him. That happened with Jalen Smith. He got traded to the Pacers and became good. But he's averaging 3 points and 1.5 rebounds per game this season, shooting under 40% from the field. But a fresh start in this situation might be decent for him. It's a development opportunity for him. I don't know what to make of his value yet. I don't really want to – I don't know that he actually pushes the needle hardly at all in this trade, but the Pacers stayed under the tax and could take him in. Why not? They're sending away 2 players. The Clippers needed to send out 2 players. There we go. So he is also a part of this. Who knows what his long-term outlook could be with the Pacers. They have 31 games or however many he plays to actually figure it out. But that is their return at the trade deadline. Kobe Brown and Ivica Zubac. And importantly, we'll get to as we kind of wind down the deadline later this week. I have no idea what the podcasts are going to be about the next couple of days. Importantly, they still have an open roster spot. So some decisions still to come for the Pacers, who now don't have Ben Mathurin or 2 first-round picks or Isaiah Jackson. Let's talk about that stuff coming up on this shorter Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, let me talk to you about FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5. Get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen for this trade deadline quick reaction. Again, we'll go into more detail on tonight's episode about the cap impact to the actual picks, the game theory of all this. But now let's take the turn to what they sent away. Ben Mathurin, who Rhett Bauer and I ranked as our most likely player to be traded. Isaiah Jackson, who we both at one point thought was more likely to be traded, and then we both changed it to Ben, but they both get traded in the same move. I saw Isaiah walking out of the practice facility earlier to say goodbye. Seems excited about LA. He already tweeted about it. Good for him. It's a good spot for him to be right now, given where the Clippers appear to be heading. And then the picks package is obviously very big. An unprotected 2029 first, a weirdly protected 2026 first, and a 2028 second rounder. It's Dallas's 2028 second, so Pacers have no control over where that lands in theory. Let's just push that to the side. That's not really relevant. Look, we'll start with Mathurin, because that's what everybody's going to be talking about. Most polarizing player on the team. It's not close. It's really not close. And some of you are going to say, what on earth are they thinking? Why are they trading this guy? Do you see what he's capable of? Do you see what his ceiling is? He was the best player scoring-wise in a finals game for the Pacers. That inevitably gets brought up when I talk about him. But that player is not there all the time. And that is why I feel like opinions of him, even around people I talk to in the league, change all the time. All the time. No one knows how to value him. His ceiling is very high. And I'm going to call this now. I think both of these things are true. I think this trade is a good move for the Pacers that will make them better, and they should do it, especially given what is at stake for them in terms of potential deep playoff runs. I also think Bennedict Mathurin is going to be better for the Clippers than he was for the Pacers because of the way they play, their opportunity, and the setup that this all has for the Pacers. So that's good for him. But for the Pacers specifically, if they were going to pay him what it seems like he's going to fetch in free agency, we'll see what the Clippers ultimately end up giving him, he wouldn't have fit in their salary structure. His contract would have been about what Zubac's is going to be. But Zubac fits great into what the Pacers need as their starting center. Mathurin would have been a reserve. He would not have started, barring a miraculous close to the season, over Nembhard or Nesmith next year when Haliburton returned. Paying for that role in production, you better know that they're awesome and a great fit. And the Pacers don't know that, even with his spectacular postseason games. He deserves praise for the way he played in the postseason, but all these questions kept coming up for forever. And I tried to tell you guys over and over, expiring contract players, the Pacers always think like this. And I ran through all these trades that teams made with players in the final year of their rookie deal before they became a restricted free agent. And this one is the most reminiscent to me of the Knicks trading Precious Achiuwa and Emmanuel Quickley and some picks for OG Anunoby. Worked out great for them. They've had a lot of playoff success after doing so. Anunoby fit their team very well. And some Knicks fans didn't like it. Quickley was awesome for them. Precious Achiuwa is a good player. He's still playing well in the league. Now, granted, Bennedict Mathurin is better than Precious Achiuwa. That's just the comp trade that's happened before that I wanted to get people to think about as a comparison, because that was a team using a player in this position like Mathurin's to upgrade. It worked well for them specifically. So that will be telling of how this trade is graded. How great does Mathurin play for the Clippers? Isaiah Jackson is in this trade as well. He's had some good games and bad games this season. I think what he has been determined to be in his 5 years in the NBA is a backup center. That's fine. Backup centers are good. However, if you're a backup center on a team that has Jay Huff making the minimum, who is just as good as him, or has been this year, and Micah Potter making the minimum, potentially, we'll see what his future holds. Isaiah Jackson making $7 million, or averaging $7 million over the next 3 years, is a bad use of resources. At the time, a clear bet this summer when they re-signed him that they believed he was going to be of use to them this year. Remember, they started him coming into the season. A clear belief was placed in Isaiah Jackson, and he earned it. The last time he was playing real competitive games, he played 6 games the last season before he tore his Achilles. Forget that. He was playing in the conference finals against the Celtics as the backup center. He was great against the Knicks in the second round, right? They were right to think that he could be something for them. If you'll recall, I thought he'd get a minimum contract in the summer coming off an Achilles tear. I was surprised by what they gave him. And again, his last 2 games were both very good. But very clearly, his price point exceeded what his role would be for the Pacers. That does not mean on the Clippers now, who he might be, he's one of their best centers. He's one of the best centers on the Clippers now. Like he might be that the contract might line up better with his role, and that team does not look like they're just traded away James Harden. They got Darius Garland, he's awesome, but they're perhaps turning towards going the other direction in a trade like that. They traded away Zubac for a pick package. The Clippers are going the other direction right now. They're below 500. They're 10th in the West. They don't have a lot of ways to get better. This makes sense for why they would do this. And Jackson might get more opportunity there. So neither Mathurin or Jackson are bad players for the Pacers. Neither of them are just cast-offs or salary fillers. But they both had, and the reason this was predicted, good reason to actually be moved at this deadline by the Pacers, and were why the whole time I thought they were the two most likely to be moved. In the same trade, nonetheless, I did not expect, but that's why they were the guys, to me, that the Pacers were most willing to move. And it just so happens that their contracts stacked together make it possible for the Pacers to acquire someone like Ivica Zubac and also Kobe Brown on top of that. So that is why those two are in it. To me, the Pacers might have different interpretations. Mathurin's free agency coming up, certainly a factor here. His role in the Pacers, his fit with the Pacers, certainly a factor here. Jackson's contract, certainly a factor here. And then there's the matter of the picks. Again, push the second rounder to the side, whatever. Maybe it matters to you a lot. I don't know. 2029 unprotected. Okay. It's going to take good first-round picks to get a great player on a good contract, right? Okay. So I suspected that this year's pick on this podcast a few times could actually be in play this year. That was just me suspecting. I had never talked to anyone about that. But if you think about their situation, that pick and the way they handled it is probably going to be the swing thing of this trade. So I think some people have kind of internalized what this is. So there's two ways to think about it. It is currently protected 1 through 4 and 10 through 30. So if the Pacers win the lottery or their ping pong ball comes up at all, because 4 picks get drawn, they will get a top 4 pick. They will have it. If not, if their ball does not get drawn, then it goes to the Clippers, unless the Pacers' record is good enough that them not getting drawn would push them all the way down to 10. If they have the 10th word. So here's one way of thinking about this. This is just a quick, dirty way to do this. If the Pacers finish this season with the 10th worst record in the NBA, they are guaranteed to have their first-round pick this year because either they move up into the top 4 or they're 10th or worse. If they are 9th worst record, they'd either be 9th, give it to the Clippers, or they'd keep it. Right? So it's all very complicated. I'll get into the odds of it later because it's fascinating. I've been talking to people all day about this. Couple buddies, couple media members, one person who works for a non-Pacers team, just what they think about the value of that. So that could be dramatic. The Pacers could give up the 5th, 6th, or 7th pick. So some people I've already seen say, oh my gosh, they have to lose every game the rest of the season. They need the worst record. Okay, that's a coin flip. That's still a coin flip. It's 52%. They'd get a top 4 pick, 48. They'd give the 5th pick in the draft to the Clippers. So what you're risking or thinking about is, let's pretend they give the 5th pick to the Clippers, but they keep 2031. What's that pick going to be? You could just average and say 15th. Think about 15th that far from now. You don't know that. If you think about them potentially coming out of an era, they could be bad. If Tyrese Haliburton is still on the team, they could be awesome. You don't know. No one knows. So it's all about the risk you're willing to take with that. And so now the Pacers strategy is interesting. If they try to win a lot now and they get to the 9th worst odds, the odds that they lose the pick are very small. And they could either get a lottery pick or guarantee they get picked 10 through 13 or something like that, right? There's lots of ways to think about it, but that is the other non-Mathurin factor of how you view this trade, is if you think it was too risky for them to give up the 5th or 6th pick in a Zubac trade, because that is the true risks. I have not scouted at all. I will at some point do so. That is where this gets dicey. If you think the 5th or 6th best player in this draft should have been completely off limits for Zubac, you probably hate this trade. But you cannot have given up any of the top 4, right? If the Pacers lose every game the rest of the season and have the worst record in the league, they could still lose it. There's a half chance they would still lose the pick, right? And so the bet is now, what to them is the best place to land? And I think you could argue for lots of spots. I'll explain why tonight, going into more detail. Worst record, you have the best chance at keeping a top 4 pick. 10th best record, you're guaranteed to keep your pick. 7th best record? Well, you literally cannot give up the 5th or 6th pick if you have the 7th best record. You cannot give up the 5th, 6th, or 7th pick if you have the 8th best record. That's all the stuff that we'll get into later with more details about the odds. Fascinating trade. Pacers roll the dice. I think it's a good trade. I think the value is good, which is why I predicted that it would be the trade if done last night. But there's obviously so many more layers to get to this. At some point, I'll have a Clippers person on to talk about Zubac. In the middle, I have to talk about a game they're going to play against the Bucks, who did not trade Giannis. Oh, boy. This is going to be a doozy. It's going to be a blast. And I want to also talk about at some point moves they didn't make that I thought were interesting. But that is the Pacers trade deadline for 2026. They are gearing up for next year. Thank you guys for this quick listen. We'll do 30 minutes, just me tonight, with more on all this, more on Zubac, Brown, the pick, everything. Thank you all so much for listening today. See you tonight. See you tomorrow.